message, you can type something.
Yeah, or we can raise our hands.
Yeah, right. So let me start. So yeah. Yeah, myself, Balaji. Okay, so I'm roughly having around 16 years of experience in the software, where I'm a Java, C++, Python developer. Okay, so essentially, I'm a developer who built enterprise systems and stuff. So why I'm doing this is there are two things. Okay, well, is the only way you can improve your knowledge is to share it. Okay, whatever you learn, when you share it, okay, it amplify. So that's the one motto of it. And second thing is like providing a good solid Python background. So essentially whatever the path you are planning to take in Python, whether you want to be an web application developer, whether you want to be a data science engineer, okay, whether you want to be a system programmer, I mean configuration management, someone like managing AWS or something, whatever you want to do configuration, the Python is a very essential skill. So uh, so to have a solid background on Python, you need to learn it as a language. So that's the reason I started this session. So this is a very basic session which will help you to get hands on in Python, and from there you can start exploring what are the paths you want to know. So specifically in this session, I'm going to deliver this series in four weekends, 1 hour each. I'm going to share a code samples. I'm going to share you the recordings, and I'm going to share you a little bit of assignments so that you can play and get back. Okay. So this session will contain very basics of Python. Why we want to read Python. Okay. Why we want to learn Python. That I'm going to cover. Then installing Python in Windows and Linux. So uh, I'm going to cover up that little bit because I'm going to not going to spend much time on it. Then REPL, Whitespace formatting, and blah blah blah. Okay, data types. So with this small section of, we are going to finish this session. Now, sorry, even I'm very new in using this. Okay, so if you think it as a pyramid, right, your learning path, you will start from fundamentals first, then you go beyond the basics, and then you go to an advanced level. So anything it is common, but the fundamentals cover the essential part what you learn. So you need to be very strong in the fundamentals. So that this course mainly aims to guys to make you very good in fundamentals. Then we go to little bit of beyond the fundamentals, so and advanced. So if you ask me what it is, what do you cover in the fundamentals, specifically the language fundamentals. What do you mean by language fundamentals, or what are data types in that language? Okay, so and what what are functions, what are modules, how do you organize code? So those are all very common to the whatever the level you go. It can be a language fundamentals. Okay, data types, what are the data types that Python has and stuff. Next you go to little bit of object oriented programming in Python. So you want to know an object oriented type of programming in Python, how do you do that? Okay, then we'll go to a little bit of advanced. Okay, saying that okay, more of you can say functional programming or virtual inheritance. Okay, those type of anonymous functions, lambdas. So the newer concepts, closures. Okay, those all things which we are going to cover in a little bit of advanced section. Based upon the people's interest and their get back, I can, the agenda of these sessions are not fixed. If people want to cover some other part, I'm going to cover that. Okay, so very common terms you hear, I mean, Python. Okay, when someone say Python, right, you hear these terms. Not no need to remember them. I'm not going to go in depth. Okay, what is a REPL? What is duck typing? What is comprehensions class? These jargons you are going to hear. And in these sessions, we are going to cover all these jargons in a very depth manner. Okay, whenever you hear this term, then you will understand, okay, why it is used and what it is used for and everything. Then I'm going to see what in Python, what people say is, if you write a Python code, okay, it's an indentation specific, like the way I write and the way some X person write it, it's the same. I'm going to explain you when I'm going to say indentation. The coding style is same, so that it's more readable and followable. When someone writes a Python code and I write a Python code, it's very easy to understand because it's an indentation oriented. Okay, so without much about that, then we will see in which areas the Python is used. When you want to be a web developer, these are the libraries. Whether it's Django or Flask, Django is very popular for both UI and API development. Flask is very popular in the API development. So you are a web developer, then you are a science student who want to do some good mathematical calculations, then Python has a libraries. If you are a network engineer, or if you are a configuration management guy in your company, okay, you are a system administrator who want to write some automation scripts on top of it, then essentially you can do that in Python. Now Ansible is written in Python, like several Amazon. If you use Amazon SDK, it was written in Python. If you use Microsoft SDK, Microsoft was their cloud SDK is based on Python. So cloud configurations, you can do it in Python. Data analytics, okay, so if you want to be a data science student, okay, you want to do analysis on the top of a data, then you can use Python. Some of the libraries, Pandas, Matplotlib, TensorFlow from Google, scikit-learn, so it also came from Google. So these are all libraries in Python. So Python covers every area, if you ask me, okay. So you can do web development, you can do a science research, you can do a cloud configuration, and you can do a data analytics. So that's a little bit about the areas it cover. Now, so I think those are the slides only I have. Now, let me use the notepad and see how what we are going to cover in this session before it turns up. Somehow my system is acting very slow. Okay. When you say Python, right? Python is a small binary. It gets installed with all the modern operating system. When you have Windows or when you have Linux, if you simply go to the terminal, so I'm on a Linux terminal, okay. So if you say which Python, there is a Python which was I already installed. So if you simply type Python, a prompt comes up, okay. So this we call it's an REPL prompt. I'll explain you what I mean that. So when you how do you, for these sessions, if you have a basic Python on your operating system, either it can be a Windows or Linux, that is fine. But my suggestion is when you are learning Python has a distribution. So like Python is an open source, right? So Python is open source, okay. There is a python.org. There is a distribution. So what is a distribution means, okay, which will contain basic Python libraries, and it contains so other fields, okay, machine learning or data science or web development. So these are libraries are packed together and you are getting a distribution like Linux distribution, right? Linux kernel is owned by one guy, okay, but Red Hat has a one distribution, okay, Ubuntu has one distribution, someone called Debian based, okay, but kernel is came from one, the core comes from one guy, but they add additional packages so that you can easily use. So my suggestion is you guys should use Anaconda distribution for your Python. So whether you are doing data science or whether you are doing development, you guys should use Anaconda distribution. So if you go to somehow bear with me, my system is not responding properly, okay. So Anaconda Python, you can simply type this and you are going to get an Anaconda distribution. Then go to the appropriate based upon your operating system, whether it can be a Windows or Linux. So for me, it is a Linux. And in Linux, you have two variants. Which one should I use? You guys should use Python 3.7, not Python 2.7. So do remember that in this course, we essentially cover Python 3, not Python 2. So you can ask me why. So this course, we are going to use Python 3, not Python 2. So Python 3 is the future of the language. So when you are learning, only pay attention to Python 3, but not to Python 2. So in this session, we are going to cover only Python 3. So how do you identify whether it is a Python 2 or Python 3? There, if you see some code, right? If you see print hello, this is simply like a Python 2. If you see print as a function which takes parameters, hello, this is nothing but Python 3. So that's how you can identify what's a difference between Python 2 and Python 3. There is something like shebang. When starting of the code, someone writes a shebang, which will help you to identify that. We are going to cover what is a shebang and stuff. So simply, if you got a piece of a code, you want to know Python, you just check for a print statements that will give you a reasonably good hint whether it's a Python 2 or Python 3. So Python 3 is not backward compatible. So it's not backward compatible. You cannot have Python 2 library running in Python 3. So you cannot have Python 2 code in Python 3. Okay. So that is very clear. Python 3 is just a newer fork and it runs on its own. There is no backward compatible. Okay. So you can download the appropriate Python version. My suggestion is to use Python 3 for your operating system. And the installation is a very next. So it's nothing great to install Python. It's very simple to install. The simple way to identify your Python is you just say Python version. It will give you what version we are running. Currently, we are running 3.7.3. Okay, that's about little bit of Python installation. So installation, all you need to remember is use Anaconda distribution. Okay, that is very easy. Next thing is, now we have to write a little bit of small snippets in Python. I'll show you. So the first thing what you have to do is like you need to understand what is REPL in Python or Python prompt. Like your Windows prompt, right? You have prompt. We have a Linux prompt. I have a Linux prompt here which takes my commands and run. So when you say simply Python, a prompt comes up. This prompt we call it as an REPL. R for read, it will read whatever you give. E for evaluate, and P for print the evaluated expression, and L for loop back. Okay, so we use REPL to do very basic learning. So for this session, I'm going to use only REPL for the basic learning. Okay, now to start a REPL, you just say Python. Now let me do one simple thing, print hello. So and it printed back you the response, right? What it did, it read what you gave, then it evaluated what it has to know. It just needs to print, and it loop back for input. Similarly, if I'm trying to do summation of two numbers, 1 plus 2, so it is trying to read the expression, evaluate the expression, and print it back. So that's about REPL. Why do we use REPL is to write small snippets. So what are the REPLs we have? We have, if you hear, right, Python console or IPython, you might have heard about these terms, right? Jupyter, JUYPT, you used about Spider. Okay, these are, so Python console and IPython console are REPLs. Okay, so Jupyter is like, they call it as an interactive Python development. Then we have a IDE. Okay, Jupyter people call it an IDE, not an issue. We have a Spider. You might have heard about Eclipse. You might have heard about PyCharm. So there are various terms. So it is nothing but what it will do. It will retake your piece of a code. It runs that piece of code, display you the results back. Okay. So there are various ways you can run a Python code. So let me take very simple ways. So I'll show you two ways to run a Python code. I'm pressing Control Z. Like so I'm creating one directory. So for example, the print hello.py, right? I'll just create one hello.py, and I just say gedit. I'm using an editor to write the Python code. Okay, so I have the editor up. Then what I'm doing is I've said print hello world, and I just put. So you can use Python interpreter, and you just say hello.py. What it did, it ran, the Python interpreter ran your script. So you can run it in a script mode also. So you can use Python interpreter, you can call Python binary, and with your script file, you can run it. So simply I run. Or another way to do this is you can have a REPL and start writing small snippets. So when you want to test something, you can use always REPL and do that. So any questions till the Python REPL environment and very basics of Python? Okay, I think you guys are good. No issue. So if you have any questions, because the audience are very small, you can make it interactive, and I try to answer as much as possible. Okay. So now, so if you, the simple thing before I go into data types, we will learn little bit of Python standard library functions. So what we are going to learn is, we will learn pre-built functions. in Python. So we are going to learn how to use a function instead of before writing a function. So that's why it's very easy for us to learn it quickly before we write a function in Python. Okay. So like, let me show you a very simple example. Like I'm using a print function, right? Print hello. So this is how I'm printing some statement. This is a function which is in a predefined system library and we are calling it. So by default, you really need not import these functions. They are available, but I'm using a mathematics function. Like I want to find a square root. Simple example is I want to find a square root. Okay. So we have a module called math. In math module, we have a function sqrt. Let's try to use that function. Okay. So simple way is like, remember this one, import math module. So this is a module. What is a module in Python? Module is group of functions or a simple file. A file with a set of functions is called module. Okay, simply you can remember it's a simple file. Okay, nothing but a module will have the functions. A module comprise of f1, f2, like that, in a single file. I shouldn't say simple file, it's a single file. Sorry for the typo. Okay. You'll understand when we write our custom module what I mean by it. Just remember that if I say import math, you are importing the mathematical module. So now I want to, in the math module, I want to use some sqrt function, sqrt of 10, 4, which is very easy too. So this is how you can call the functions inside a module with the with a dot operator or name resolution operator. Okay. So math.sqrt you can call with the parameter. So if I want to what are the functions were there in this math library? Let me check. dir of math. So it has a sign also. Math sign 90, I think. So it says around, I don't know. Probably I didn't use this library. So this is how you can, this library, math library has these functions you can call with a dot operator on top of that module. Okay. So let us see a little bit of variants while you are using a functions or while you are calling functions from a module. Okay. So if I say import math, it is going to import all the functions. Imports entire module. That means imports all the functions, which is not right because they occupy memory and they impact little bit of performance of your application. So when you are using only square root library, sorry, when you are using only square root function, where you are importing all the sine, cos, tan, all the functions from the library. The other way is, okay, from math library, I just import only the square root function sqrt. This is a very simple way to do that. So I'm using, so let me start the REPL once. From math library, I just import sqrt. Pay attention to this syntax because very commonly used. This is nothing but from math module, only use the square root function. Okay. Now I have a square root function. Now I can simply call sqrt. I can just ignore the module name, sqrt of 10 or sqrt of 4. This is how you can, now if I try to do sine of 10, it says it doesn't know anything about it. Okay, even I cannot do math dot sine of, okay. because you are only importing the square root function. Now aliasing, okay, alias is a very common thing. Okay, instead of sqrt, for a readability sake, I want to rename, I want to create alias to function sqrt. Okay, it's very simple. Alias means other name, right? Very the simply what you from math library, from math module, import square root function sqrt as sqare root, something like that you can do. Then you can have square root of 4. It is nothing but the another name for this function sqrt. So this is how you can alias, give a other name to the function. There is some other, like from math library import star, means imports everything. So if I say sine of 10, I think it should be just n, I believe. It gives, I'm importing all, which is nothing but import math equivalent, but what you have to do is 10. So pay this small attention to these imports. This will definitely confuse you when you are going to a higher level program. So when you are using functions for your web development, whether you are using data science or anything, everyone follows the basic syntax. Okay, simple thing is from math library only import sqrt square root and sine functions. This is, you can import only square root and sine functions. These are the various formats which I showed you guys. Okay, so anything about any questions till the import, anything related to importing entire module, importing only particular functions and stuff? It is fine. Okay, right. So now we covered the basic, very basics of a module and functions. Module contains functions, and how do you import functions from a module? Okay, and how do you give an alias to a particular function and stuff. Now let us learn a little bit about data types. Okay, data types in Python. So we generally call scalar types. Okay, so what do you mean by scalar type? Means they have only single magnitude. I don't want to confuse you a little bit. Okay, I'll explain you what is. Generally we call this as scalar types. So they will have only one magnitude. Simple example is like int, float, bool, and none. Okay, so Python has these basic types. These are the very basic types in Python. It doesn't have, everything is on top of it. So whether string, okay, there doesn't have any char data type, they have only strings. So int represents, okay, just integers. Okay, so this represents floating points, this represents Boolean. There is a special type called none type. I'll explain you. This is the most confusing data type, where you will end up in always having a confusion about what is this none type. And there is something like str is like a string type. Okay, so for example, let me show you something like, I once again started a REPL. Okay, now I just said 10. Okay, you have a function called type, and if you pass 10, it says it is an integer type. And remember, it says a class. When I covered objects, I'll explain you. In Python, everything is object. It can be a basic data types, modules, functions, classes. Everything is an object in Python. When we learn little bit of object orientedness, I'll explain you why it is very beneficial for Python to make everything is object. One statement you remember, that everything is object in Python. So if I say type of 11.2, it says it is a type of class float. Okay. Similarly, type of, I'll say hello, a string type. It's a string class. And if I say type of true Boolean, it says Boolean type. Okay. Type of none, it says none type. So everything is a object in Python, and that's the reason there is a template class associated to it. Object is nothing but an instance of a class, right? So when you instantiate a class, you will get an object. So essentially, Python data types, we call them as an int, float, Boolean, and none type. String type, you can also say that, but this is not a very basic of Python. Okay, they don't have anything like a char data type in Python, so it's only the string. String is nothing but a sequence of characters in Python. Okay, now let me okay, so any questions till this basic types?
Can you explain a little bit about non-type?
Your voice is low.
Can you explain a little bit about non-type?
We can't hear you.
We can't hear you. Can you type the question at least in the chat?
Okay.
So I got a question. Yes. So if you say type, if you want to define a string in Python, enclose in a quote. It can be a single quotes or double quotes. Okay. So for example, ABC, type of 10. Okay. So like this is like a string data type. If you remove this, it doesn't know anything about ABC. So if you just simply say ABC, it doesn't know what is ABC stands for. So you were, as per your question, right? If I let me share your question. So as per question, type of 10 is a string. You are correct. Yes. String is a sequence of characters. Can explain little bit about none type. Yes. So I'll explain you of none type. Let me say. So one example, what I can show you very simply is like, yeah. When I dwell little bit of functions, can explain you one basic thing. I'll just take the IDE and explain you. It is very simple to explain the none type. Something like I'm adding a something demo.py. Because none type is a very easy to confuse. So I'm writing a function hello, and I have a message, and I say if message is none, okay, so I say return hello. Let's don't complicate. Print hello none message, else print message. So I'm going to explain a little bit of these as well. What is this weird underscore underscore name and stuff. But you ask me the none type, I'm going to explain you. So hello 10. If you carefully follow this, so if I am passing 10, it is printing me a 10. Okay, but what I want to do is I want to know that it's not assigned to anything. Like if I say hello, I'm not passing any arguments to it. So what this should yield? So the formal parameter, it says that it is missing an positional argument, right? So like if I make it as an optional, okay, let me show something. Like if you don't pass anything, this is called a keyword argument in Python. When you delete function, I'll explain you. So if a variable is not given any data type, it will take the none type, and it is very easy to check. None is not empty, right? So if I run this code now, it shows that hello none message. So this variable, you are calling this function without an argument. So this we call as a keyword argument. Keyword arguments are optional. So if you want to check that, in that case, it is useful for none type, okay? If message is none, is a way to check the data types of it, okay? So none, then we are dealing with this none type. So for example, like I'll go to a equal to none and type of a, it's a none type. So if you have a variable and you don't assign any type to it, the simple way, if you say a, I already have a probably b, Python gives you an error. So you want to have a variable, but you don't want to define any type to it. You can do by saying it as a none type. Like if we declare a variable b equal to 10, b equal to 10.2, but there is a case where you want to define a variable, you don't want to say its type. The simple way to do this is none. So got it? There are various ways. One is like formal parameter checking and stuff. So none is not null. So if you have this is nothing but is a string. Somehow your audio, we are not able to type it on the screen.
माइक नीचे करो. अगर तेरा माइक पीछे है भाई, हेडफोन का.
Okay, type the question. I'll answer in the chat. Oh,
Hello, can you hear me now?
perfect. Yes.
Yeah. So if you declare a variable as none, can you save any other data types later to it?
Yeah. So that's what Python called duck typing. Like I say a equal to none,
Mm-hmm.
and I try to assign an integer to it. One, it is fine. I try to assign a boolean to it. It is fine. I can change data type of it like anything. So I can assign it to a string. Yes, it is fine. So if we say type of a, now it becomes a string. If I say a equal to 10.2,
Balaji, are you
type
typing?
of a, sorry,
I can't see your screen.
you can't see my screen. I think I accidentally stopped it. I think share desktop one, share. Are you able to see now?
Yeah, I can
Correct.
see.
So when you declare a variable and assign a data type to it, right, you can always change the data type. In Python, there is no strict rule that you cannot change the data type. So in summary, what you can say is you can change data type of a variable. So no problem with it. So when you you cannot you cannot create a variable with a data type. So what I mean by that is, so you cannot create a variable like L1 something like that, which is wrong. So if you have to say that L1 equal to none. Okay, is that answers your question?
Yeah. So like in advance, if you don't know what kind of data you are going to store, just create it with none, and then whatever you want to store, just assign to it, right?
Perfect, that's all.
Okay, thank you.
You got it right. So you then very common thing, right? When you want to convert from one data type to another, like I have string int. When I want to convert a string to int, right? Int function converts integer integer 10 to string. So like similarly, so boolean of some string or boolean of, so this is always confuses you one thing. So when you are using so bool, what happens is when you are using, okay, now the next topic what I'm conversing is data type conversion. So let us try to convert string to int. Okay, so then string to bool. These will be very helpful when you are doing a conditional checking. So in Python, if you say if something like that, if Balaji, I can say, and I try to 1 2 3 4 and I try to say print hello. If Balaji is also fine, what it is trying to do is it try to do a bool on top of anything. Suppose even if you try, it is also correct. The simple logic what it will do is in expressions, if it has to really convert into boolean, okay, to understand it's a true or false, it will use a bool function. So only bool of non empty is true. You have to remember only that thing. So for example, bool of a is also true, because this one particular type conversion is a very confusing thing. So pay one attention. I'm not saying that integer to string, you all figure it out. Bool to none to bool and bool to other data. String to bool is always confusing. So string, if you have empty, This is false. Okay, this is false. String empty. Even if you have some space, this is also true. So non-empty is always true. So this is very essential when you are doing and evaluating the expressions. Okay, so now we learn about data types, then the type conversion from one data type to another data type. Okay, then we understand the bool as well. Okay, now uh, let me go walk you through one more interesting essential thing is like conditional expressions in Python. Okay, so it can be a if, it can be a while. Okay, it can be, we don't have a do while in Python. So similarly, few languages has do while. Okay, then we have something like continue. Okay, where you can continue particular thing. Okay, so I'm going to explain you about a little bit of about if statement, which is nothing but a conditional controls. Okay, control flow. So I have a just one. I'm going to share you these code examples also, like simple if 10 print hello. So what will it print or not?
I think it will print.
It's print because then if true, what will happen?
It will print.
Okay, it will print. Now if false,
Don't.
it won't. But if I change a little bit of this, what it will do?
It will print.
It will print because it will do bool on string.
False. Yeah, correct.
Okay, so now what it will do now?
It won't.
Okay, it won't. The reason is because bool of empty is false.
False.
So this is this, if you see a first statement, okay, these all things you get really confused. Now let's say if none, so what happens to this then? Okay, so this is also a false. Okay, so
I don't
essentially
understand.
the reason is type, so bool of none is false. Okay,
False.
so guys, this so if you pay this small attention to this simple example, you can eliminate so many bugs in your Python code. So because the data types are tiny, so if someone says that if they blindly say like data and expects that the statement get terminated, but that won't happen. Okay, so now simple thing is, now we will do a if else. If like a person age, like if I say age equal to 60, I define a variable age. If age is greater than 60, I'll just say print senior. Else you can have else print non senior, not senior, something like that. Now I'll explain you few things. What is blocks in Python? Okay. So do you have any inner blocks or scopes in Python? That I'm going to a little bit discuss about it. This one thing you will understand. So it's very simple. If a variable age is 60, if it is greater than 60, we'll say senior, else it is so. If, else, you guys know. I'm not going to go about if, else, if you all know all those things very easily, okay? Okay. So, but one thing you have to understand is in Python, white space indentation is important. So space indentation is important in Python. Okay. So like this if block, right? The if statement, when you want to start a new block, you need to have 4 spaces. Because I'm using IDE, it is automatically taking care of 1, 2, 3, 4. This will always give you a pain when you don't follow the spaces and tabs. So it should be 4 spaces or 1 tab. My PEP preference is spaces. So PEP is nothing but a Python enhancement proposal, I believe. Okay, they call it a PEP 8. PEP stands for Python enhancement proposal. If you want Python enhancement proposal, so if you want to add any extension to the Python, you can always send a proposal to them and they agree or they disagree, depends upon the proposal. So but it goes through a standard process called PEP. So when you hear that PEP, that is nothing but an enhancement proposal. PEP 8 speaks about coding styles. So coding style, so how a variable needs to be there, okay, how a function needs to be declared, how function needs to be declared. These all things the PEP 8 controls. I'll explain you PEP 8 when I'm explaining about documentation of it. Okay, but do remember, so the Python, there is a specification which is called PEP, which recommends what to do. Okay, so those guys says that use 4 spaces, not tab, and not both, mixing of both. So like print ABC, something like that. Okay, like this is a block, this block of the statements execute, and the another one else statement start, and this is else block. So if I run, I'll just get, wait, I think still it's running. Okay, sorry. 61 if I do. I run, it says ABC and senior. Okay. So there is something like that if also in Python. If age is greater than 40 and age less than 60, something like that, you can always have this. Okay, so you can also have this side of syntax saying that, like if I'm age is like 51, something like that, you can use else if, you can use else if or elif, the behavior is same. Okay, so if you can add if or else if, you can easily find. Essentially what happens is this entire expressions are converted into, this entire expression is converted into Boolean, and the Boolean gets evaluated. That's the only thing which you need to understand. Okay, that's about else if. Then I'll little bit cover about loops. Like let me print some 10 numbers in Python. That's very common thing, right? For I in range 10, okay, print I. So it is printing 0 to 9. What is this range? Is nothing but an iterator. So if I say range of 10, I'll simply say range of 10, it gave you a tuple from 0 to 10, and it is nothing but an iterator. When you are, I'm not going to confuse you now, but when you learn collections, right? When you learn collection, you will understand the lists, tuples, sets, dictionaries. These are essentials in Python. If you understand them, then everything is on top of it only. So remember that range creates a tuple, and that range you can iterate. That's the only thing you need to understand. Okay. So or you can do in this form. No one, or in a traditional way, when you don't want to have iterators, for you can have while I equal to 0, I less than 10, print I. After that, you just increment I plus plus. So this is also fine. So let me remove this. It's very simple. You can say I equal to 0. You can do in this form. So while I less than 0 less than 10, then you are incrementing it, and once again you are going it. So this is also
So
you can do
I
that.
equal to I plus plus didn't work.
I'm just thinking why I plus plus doesn't work. I was also just wondered. Okay, so this should be good. So they didn't have an increment operator, I think.
Okay. Okay.
So,
Yeah,
so they don't.
that's good.
So generally, pre-increment and post-increment operators are very common. So
Yeah.
I'll just revisit why they didn't have a pre-increment operator. Okay, so
And in the previous example, that for loop, that range we can explicitly give like 10 to 20, like that, right? You gave range in bracket, you gave 10, but otherwise you can give between like 20, 30, like that, right?
yeah. So for example, for I in range, I want to start from 10, but I want to till 20 and an increment of 2.
Okay.
Just this you can do with this. The range function does that. So it prints an even numbers between 10 to 20, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. This is how you can do that also. So range essentially, what you need to define is range essentially creates your tuple and you are iterating through tuple. That's the only thing. So
It takes the three parameters, right? The start, the end, and the increment.
Increment, yes.
Is there any other variation of this? How you can express it?
So you can do that. Okay, so these are like start, end. These are like end. There will be. So if you want to know more about range, help range gives you what it can do. So what it will do, it will say start, stop, and step. Those are the 4 arguments it takes. Stop is so the stop is the mandatory parameter. So it's like after that it can take a step. Range returns an object that produces a sequence of integers from start and blah. I am not going to read, but it has several internal methods.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry. Can you
Yeah.
go back? Yeah. Can you print again? But help print. So no. Go to the top.
Okay.
At the beginning. Yeah. So that step, that square bracket means it's optional, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, very common documentation in any language. If you put something in square bracket, the documentation says it's an optional. Yes, you're right. So let us get back how we covered today's topic. Okay, so I just want to see that we covered everything or not what we discussed today. So relational operators, data importing, whitespace formatting, and relational operators. So we are pretty much on time.
Yeah.
So with very basics, this is a basic class. I didn't explain you a little bit of more in data type. So if I say I equal to 10, it's a base 10. Okay, so but if you want to have a base 8, base 6 hexa, so binary octal, you want to do a binary manipulation and stuff, I'm going to cover it in the next. So I don't want to, in a first session itself, I don't want to give you confuse you with more. So, but in essentially in a mathematics, okay, when you're using a log 2 or log 8, okay, you want to do those things. How can you have a base 2 operations? Okay, so those things I'm going to cover. Then strings is a dedicated section. Then encoding, char types. There are so many things which we'll learn. Yeah, that's all for today's session. Any questions you guys have?
No, I mean it's good. I mean today's session is fine, and I don't have.